Necessary is in the eye of the beholder, but the reason that it's highly used is because the highest performing organizations in the world, 84% of them, have shared service centers.
So just, we're used to run, grow, transform.
Correct. Those three things are all aligned.
Shift from
It's
that
not a shift,
language?
it's an alignment to the run, grow, transform model. So the run, grow, transform is really about how you manage your budget and how you spend your dollars in terms of CapEx and OpEx. The three layers of adaptive sourcing, the run, differentiate, and innovate, is really about the sourcing part of that. So all of those things are aligned.
Now this is going to have an impact. You say 1 in 3 organizations experiences an information crisis?
Correct.
And that gets in the way of this. What's an information crisis?
Well, information crisis is that debt that you have between the information that you maintain and the information that you need to manage. And at the end of the day, there's a big difference. We're all collecting lots and lots of data. But the biggest question in many of these big data analytics projects is, what do we do with all of it? How do we take data, turn it into information, more importantly, turn it into wisdom that's really going to create action or data-driven decision-making? In the end, we really want to transform that data into something that on a daily basis or a monthly basis is something that is actionable. And so that information crisis is that huge tidal wave of data that's coming at us. And how do we, in a cost-efficient and a manageable way, determine what is the right data that we need and the right context for that data in order to make decisions that middle managers really need, again, on a daily or monthly basis.
And how does adaptive sourcing facilitate that, surviving that information crisis?
Well, adaptive sourcing is the reason we talk about the information crisis, the reason we talk about the proliferation of devices, the proliferation of stakeholders or constituencies through social media, through all these areas that need to be connected into your organization. In the run layer of the adaptive sourcing model, you have to recognize that there's a data explosion, there's a device explosion, there's an explosion of the number of people that need to be connected. So the run layer is changing in terms of the volume that you need to address, and you still have to do more with less. You still have to free up dollars from the run layer in order to differentiate and innovate the enterprise.
Wow, still a challenge. You also talk about another model that I'd like to ask you about, and that's shared services centers. First of all, shared services is an important part of this type of management, but why is it so difficult?
Well, one, it's the most difficult part of shared services, and the reason people don't like it is because it shifts the internal power of who controls certain resources, who controls people, who delivers the service. It tends to change from quite often either a decentralized model that's sitting in different business units or very close to certain elements of the business, and now all of a sudden it's in a shared service, physical shared service center. And more importantly, it's all about standardization. It's all about sort of managing multiple tenants, if you will, who are receiving the same service. And so all of a sudden, a given person doesn't get their little customized world. And so that's why it creates a lot of angst in organizations.
But it is a necessary thing for the modern organization.
Necessary is in the eye of the beholder, but the reason that it's highly used is because the highest performing organizations in the world, 84% of them, have shared service centers. So there is kind of a common denominator that there's been a significant success story around savings that shared service centers have generated. There's a significant success story around changes in behavior and the predictability of interacting with customers. And so that's what creates the attractiveness of the shared service center. But it's an extremely tough road to achieve. You're not going to get savings from a shared service center in the first year. Most shared service centers have usually a 5 to 7 year journey of adding more and more services, getting to what we call this plateau of productivity.
Okay. Does virtualization change that?
Well, virtualization is one of the underlying elements in any shared service center in terms of the enabling technology. But shared service centers are fundamentally about either a business process or an IT process. that you're creating standardization, that you're creating consistency, and more importantly, leveraging the numbers, creating critical mass, and getting the leverage from the fact that you have multiple users who all need the same or similar type of service.
You've called it nicely multi-tenancy.
Correct.
As a place in there. And I don't know how you can do the things that we need to do to be efficient, to free up that money that we need to free up for innovation without tackling something along these lines. Is that the best practice for an organization?
It's certainly a practice that many organizations are actively either analyzing or starting with, or have engaged in some smaller form and maybe expanding. The government of Canada is a typical example. One of the largest, shared service center projects that's going on right now is from the federal government of Canada. That's has a very large shared service center and is standardizing a lot of their processes, bringing a lot of the federal agencies all under one roof for very specific processes. So it's not only in the private sector, we're seeing in the public sector as well.
Great. Thank you very much. This has been a most informative conversation.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.